we started this thing out by just improvising some music and some dance, and we have some of that video up, actually. I'll give you a link to that.
It's on my website.
Yeah. And then we kind of were just talking about process and different things we like, and I showed Karin some sketches after that improvisation session, and we kind of, it started taking shape after just actually a few hours, about 4 hours of conversation total. And working, yeah.
Improvising, looking back at our improvisations.
And so far, we've come up with, it's going to be either like a 4 or 5 movement piece, and we pretty much have the very basic outline for each of those movements.
Here it is.
And even
4 parts, yeah.
4 parts is what we came by, and even I think all of them have material with it. And then so now I've gone home, and I have to send it to her. I went home and wrote some stuff based on that.
Yeah, so we really came in here pretty cold turkey. Let's see who we are and what we're interested in, and we just played basically and came up with a structure for our first improvisation, which is online. And then from there, we're like, what do we share in common? What do we have difference in our personalities and our lives and in the work we've been interested in? And then we began to talk about maybe where these abstract places, looking at 5s, looking at the long tones. There's some other things as well. They were like, well, what are these saying to us? What are we thinking these are starting to be about? So we won't reveal too much of our secrets yet, but we're starting to, a piece is starting to blossom, whether it's seen as purely abstract or whether it has some conceptual context ideas underneath it. That stuff is starting to percolate and take shape. And yeah, so it's exciting, but we definitely have something. And we're on to where we're at now. So this is my movement score.
Nice. Oh, so, yeah, I see that.
So Michael wrote for me a score. I said, write 5, a score, what we say, 8 bars?
Yeah, an 8-bar phrase.
And 5s for you, for whatever that would be.
A rhythmic score
phrase,
only, yeah.
Rhythmic score only, right. And then right underneath it, another one that you would give to me for the dance. And then I just played around with making what those 8 bars would be to the 5s in this rhythm. And then I actually drew it out on paper,
and
kind
if you
of
want to hear
what the dance score would look like for me. There's nothing really universal about this language. It's really very personal.
We got through talking, we both kind of came in without any ideas, without any music, without any movement. We're like, let's just see what happens. We wanted to, as a conscious choice.
Yeah.
And we just started talking about all kinds of different stuff, music, art, life, and it kind of developed out of that.
We looked at each other's past work as well.
Yeah, and it I don't know, I don't think I could answer that question. It almost just kind of happened, and all of a sudden, hey, we're doing all this thing.
Yeah. It wasn't scary. I didn't feel fear coming into this. And I think both Michael and I are at a place, and then I think our personalities, we have some similar energy, and let's just jump off this cliff. And so I think that was just great. But I think you bring all that you are and who you are to the table, and I think what makes it work is that you don't come in guarding yourself nor projecting anything on the other person. And I think that's a real key to getting to this place. But I think there's going to be challenges. I think I don't want to be lazy and purely just rely on Michael to do everything and inspire me. I hope to return inspiration. So the challenge for me is that I have done a lot of work with other people collaboratively, but usually the musicians and composers have just handed me stuff, and that's great. I've worked with a visual artist more equally. This is really the first time working with a composer where I know he wants to be inspired by my ideas.
We've actually, for me surprisingly, have discovered that there's more in common between the two disciplines as far as the vocabulary about describing different techniques and different things than I had previously thought. And it's really cool that Karin has some musical training as well and can read rhythms and has...
I wish I had more, but...
Well, see, you have enough of an understanding of the technical side of writing and performing music that makes it actually pretty easy to communicate.
And we spend a good amount of time asking each other questions about our mediums and teaching each other.
It's kind of what developed as an overarching idea for all of these is kind of what it takes almost to be an artist and the different conversations you have with yourself, with other people, and how that, man, how you affect and are affected by what's around you. And so kind of each of these movements, whether abstractly or really concretely, you know, or somewhere in between, kind of reflects some aspect of that, as far as just a driving force. And whether or not, you know, whether or not that's going to be apparent to an audience, whether or not that even matters, you know, at the end is yet to be seen. But it's nice to keep, it's good to have things like that, to have that emotional information, or other than, because it's not just emotional, but the other than just the purely intellectual, the purely technical, you know what I mean, to drive, I think, any piece of art that's really important, and that's what communicates, and that's what a layperson that's not trained, your typical audience member, that's what they feel from any piece of art, you know, whether, even more so than, wow, that person played a lot of fast notes, you know, and it was in a really fancy scale.
Or did a really great turn, or really good leap.
But the gestalt, it's the gestalt. Yeah. People get the gestalt of the art, and if that can communicate.
We're gonna have more of this. I want to work with all of you guys.
Nate's been a great, really good at editing these stuff. He's made
cool.
one good video.
Can
So
you help me with my fundraising video?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm so bad at my ability.
Well, that's what we're doing right now. Believe me, we are making a giant fundraising video. This is it.